All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Virginia. I've been talking to most of you on the phone as we were getting started for school. I hope the first week of classes went well for everyone. So before we get started, so everyone knows it's being recorded. So we'll send out a version of this that's a video if you wanted to go back and review. There is at the bottom of your screen, there's an option to chat questions. If you have any through the presentation, feel free to type it down there. We'll also have a time for a question and answer at the end, but if you don't want to forget, make sure to note it in there. And then we are going to do our best to answer all the questions, which I'm sure we'll have no problem doing at the end of the presentation. Again, my name is Virginia. I'm your enrollment counselor. And then with us is Dr. Voss, who's the director of graduate studies here in the Spatial Sciences Institute. And then the couple other people on here that are important names to know. Maureen Scott is the student success advisor. She's someone else I'm sure you've had communication with, but she will be the person for future registration for other semesters, as well as course selection. And then there's Ken Watson. He's the academics program director, and he's a good resource if you have more broad questions in terms of USC and the resources available. And then Dr. Voss again, he is another great person to ask if you have any sort of career questions or questions about the curriculum that are deeper than those that Maureen or myself can answer. He's a great contact for that. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Bob.
Great. So welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us. And I know I'm sure you've got plenty of things to be doing during week 2 here in your classes, so I'll keep this pretty short. Really what I wanted to do tonight was just cover some things that I think are tips and tricks for, doing well in graduate school. And so some of you were in our certificate program and have now gone on to our master's program, and then see several new students here as well. So I just want to share some ideas about how to succeed here, and then how to stay connected with us as you move forward in the program. So next slide. Okay. So as a first semester student, by now you should be able to access the SSI server, and you should start to kind of practice with it, right? I want you to get a feel for it. I want you to feel for the G drive, or where you store things. I want you to look over the server instructions really carefully. If you're having any issues with getting access to the SSI server, now is absolutely the time to reach out to the IT support we have here. And so the email address is there for you on the materials on your Blackboard site. And the staff member who helps with this, his name is Richard Sung, and he's very helpful. And he's in the office basically, 9 to 5 Pacific time, and he would get back to you right away, either by email or by a call or an internet conference. So pretty much all of our classes, with the exception of maybe just one, probably geospatial project management, maybe geospatial leadership, those two would be the only two that wouldn't need the server right away in terms of software and exercises and things you'll be doing with that, right? Also, make sure you've acquired any required readings that need to be purchased. It's a good idea. Actually, most instructors give at least the first week of reading on Blackboard, but after that, the reading would need to come from your own books. It's a good idea in the future, probably as you make your way through the program, to be looking ahead at the syllabi that are posted online, and you can actually get the reading in advance. If you see, when you register for the class, or shortly after you register, you'll see the syllabus on the schedule of classes even before you get access to the Blackboard, and so you can get the readings. A really good idea for a graduate student actually is to try to read ahead as much as you can. In fact, I would recommend, in future semesters, if you can, get the books a little bit early and get started on the reading. Obviously, you want to be caught up on reading and assignments. If you came into the class I know some people have actually started the classes a little bit late this semester. I know also some people decided to join the program, without much time before classes started this semester. So if you're having trouble being caught up on reading and assignments because of that, do definitely be in touch with the instructor. In fact, whenever you join a class late, it's a really great idea to send the instructor an email and say, I'm here. I wasn't here the first day of class, but I've looked at the syllabus and here's what here I'm going to get caught up, and give them some dates that you're going to aim to catch things up by. We don't see, actually, when you join the class, Blackboard doesn't send us a notification that says there's a new person in the class. So unless your instructor won't notice that you're new to the class until the first time they start looking for assignments, right? They're looking at the grade book in Blackboard. So give them an email, give them a shout out that, hey, I'm here, I'm new. Is there anything I need to know to get caught up? Can we figure out how I'm going to get caught up, right? And then, devoting at least 15 to 20 hours per week to each class. So, I think that's kind of, that's the official estimate of what it takes for a 4-unit class at USC. Some people manage to, do the work a little quicker, but I have an idea here for you in a second about some things you can be doing to work ahead. So if you have a week that seems lighter to you, you might want to move ahead. So give yourself an overview of the main texts. That was the cue. Yes, yeah, very good. One thing you can do to do better in your classes is, when you start the class, give yourself an overview of the main texts and readings, right? You're going to kind of survey the terrain in your course. Read the whole syllabus, grab the main texts and readings, skim them a little bit, see where the class is headed, see if there's any weeks that look harder than other weeks where you kind of need to plan ahead a little more time. Definitely a big tip here is that in almost all of our classes, these are graduate classes, and that unlike an undergraduate class, most of the grade, or a good share of the grade, is going to be in the final project. In most classes, around 30% of the grade is in the final project. And so the final project is something that in most classes the instructors will start them with you officially about midway through the course. But the sooner you can think ahead about that and get in touch with the faculty member about topics and about the things you want to do for your final project, the better. And as you move through the program and you begin to do your electives, a very good strategy is to try to use the final project in each of your courses as a way to test out thesis ideas. So if you're interested in working on a particular topic or a particular GIS method on a particular topic, use the final project in whatever class you're in to test that out, right? So it could be that you're, I was just talking to a student today about interest in sex trafficking and criminal investigation of sex trafficking. And so we're talking about, well, what classes could there be a final project, and what kind of final project could you do in that class? If you took mobile GIS, could you build a mobile app that would help investigators in some way, right? So as you develop your interests and you work out your thesis ideas, start using the final projects. You can even use a final project in one of the required classes to test out a thesis idea. In fact, in 587, the spatial data acquisition course, you will have the option for a final project. If you're in the MS-GIST program, it'll be required. And if you're in the certificate program, you'll have an option to actually write up what we call a thesis prospectus, which is like a short treatment of a thesis idea that you could work on with your faculty member there. So definitely take advantage of those final projects and think ahead and plan towards them. Because as I say, again, they're about 30% of the grade in the class. You want to make sure that you're not, tackling those at the last minute and having problems with those. Look out and plan for any time conflicts with your work or personal life. So we have had, we've had students in the program who had a first child or a second child while they were in the semester. We've had people who have to go on work trips for 2 weeks, and they're in Africa and they're out of, they're kind of out of internet range for some period of time. So there could be anything going on in your life. We know that you guys have busy family lives, and also, many of you have jobs and work obligations outside the program. But look ahead on the syllabus. If you see a week coming, I have to travel this week for work, and it's going to be very difficult this week to get my assignments in. Send an email to your professor beforehand and let them know, I'm requesting a 2-day extension on this particular assignment, or I'm gonna, or try to work with the professor to see if you can turn it in early, right, and finish up before you go on the road. Certainly, when I've had students in my class who had, a child being born during the class, we didn't know exactly when that was going to happen, but we kind of had a vicinity and we made plans, and so some work was done in advance, and then when the day came, they just sent me an email on their cell phone, said, it's the big day, and I said, fine, I'll see you in 2 weeks, and we'll, and we had a plan in place to do the makeup work. So just be just be in close touch with your instructors about those kinds of things, and look at the syllabus now and see where there's anything that's lining up as a conflict. And then the last hint I would give you as a good practice for graduate students is to read up on your professors or other USC faculty via the web and the library. So, when you're studying with a professor, it's a good idea to know what they're interested in, what they've published, the kind of perspective they're coming from. Were they fundamentally trained as a soil scientist? Were they fundamentally trained as a human geographer when they came into GIS? Do they have interests that overlap with yours? When you're thinking about thesis topics in the MS GIS program going forward, you should definitely look around the faculty and see if anybody has done work in the area that you're working, and then reach out to them. Professors are very happy to get emails where the person has done their homework and they know what the person's about, So sometimes we get unsolicited emails from all over the world, people who want to come to USC and work with us, and it's just sort of generic blanket, I think USC is the greatest thing and I want to come, and those don't really make it across the transom, right? But if somebody emails and says, I do this kind of work, you do this kind of work, here's where I see the intersection, that one we look at much more carefully. So you guys are in the program, so I assure you the faculty will read your emails very carefully, but to the extent you can introduce yourself and explain your interest in that faculty member's work, better chance you'll get a meeting right away and get the kind of feedback that you might want. So, and this would include obviously the faculty who are in Spatial Science Institute, and then we have a number of faculty affiliates who have appointments in other departments of USC and other schools. So you could contact those faculty as well. So when you look at our faculty list on the website, you'll see a large number of faculty with different expertise. So I definitely encourage you to be in touch with folks and learn from them. Next slide. So just final hints here. Staying connected to the program. We're an online program, so a little event like tonight hopefully is helpful. We'll have questions here in a minute. We encourage as much communication as we can. These are the places that we're going to be in the remainder of this year. There will be at least one or two faculty members at all of these, and at some of these there'll be many more than that. So Federal User Conference, I think just one or two people. Los Angeles Geospatial Summit obviously is in LA. Pretty much everybody will be there. The AAG meeting, I'm guessing there'll probably be 8 or 10 faculty there in Washington. I will be in Washington for the AAG meeting this year. The US Geospatial Intelligence Foundation GeoInt Symposium, there'll be at least 2 or 3 people there. Esri User Conference in San Diego in the summer, my guess is there'll be 8 to 10 people there. We will have a reception most likely for USC folks at the AAG meeting. So if you're going to be at the AAG, definitely let us know. Pass the word through me or to Ken Watson that you're going to be there, and we'll make sure you get invited to whatever kind of gatherings we're having. As a user conference, we will definitely have a reception. You guys will probably all get the invitation to that along the way here. So that's in San Diego in July. So the Esri User Conferences, by the way, just one more point there, sorry, Yesenia. One more point is that those are fairly expensive, but there is a student assistantship program for those. And I've put the information on the student Blackboard already last semester. And so like it's too late now probably for the federal user conference, but there might still be some assistantship slots for the Esri user conference for this summer. And if you do an assistantship slot, what this means is that you work for Esri for a day or two to help support the conference, and in return, you get your conference registration comped, and also your housing comped. So it's a really great deal. And so if not this summer, then maybe next summer for those who are new to the program, to consider doing that. Being at the Esri UC or being at the Federal User Conference are great. Those are great experiences. And as students also, actually the conference fee, even if you pay it out of your own pocket, the conference fee is much lower than for for people who are already practicing professionals. So it's a pretty good deal, a pretty great opportunity to network and to present some of your work. And so those opportunities will come along, and I'll be announcing them on Blackboard as they come up. So keep an eye out for that. Next slide. Thanks. So another way we stay connected to all of you guys is that we have each semester we have what we call a progress meeting, and just so you know, we're looking carefully at each student every semester, and we're evaluating. Like in February this year, we'll meet and we'll evaluate the performance of students in fall 2018, right? And we're looking carefully at what was the quality of work, how much were students communicating, grades. Obviously, as people progress into the thesis in the MS GIS program, we're evaluating their progress on the thesis, and we're watching that very carefully because we've worked out a very detailed way to accomplish the thesis, so that it's a very structured way to accomplish the thesis, so that we don't have a lot of extra semesters of thesis work, hopefully. So you'll be hearing from us after those progress meetings, with usually with a thumbs up saying, great job, you're on the right track, but sometimes with a note of caution. And so so just to know that we're assessing very carefully for each student. For communication, you're going to be using the discussion boards in Blackboard in your classes. So please use those, carefully, but often. If you have questions for your instructor, put them on the discussion board, and other students can see the answers. Might help other students as well. You can certainly reach out to faculty with questions via the discussion board or via emails, emails directly to the faculty. Basically, I expect my colleagues to return emails, particularly on our online program, within 24 to 48 hours. So if you're more than 48 hours without a response to a question to faculty on email, I kind of want to know about it, actually. If it's over a weekend, maybe we'll be a little bit, we have to give a little flexibility, but certainly, across weekdays, I would expect the faculty to get back to you quickly. And if you need to set up an appointment to, do have an online meeting or something like that, I expect that is going to get accomplished in a timely way. So if you're struggling with something in the class and you need some support with an online meeting with a faculty member, the earlier you can email, the better, right? So again, this is about planning ahead. If you're struggling with the assignment and it's 12 hours before it's due, you're going to have a hard time getting together with your faculty member for some assistance. But if you started the assignment, you can already see that you're struggling, 3-4 days out before it's due. If an email to the faculty should give you a chance to get together with them before the deadline. If you're struggling, you can't get together with your faculty member, turn in the best you can and let them know that you need to meet with them to go over it. Many classes, obviously, the assignments sort of accumulate one on top of the other. So you need to learn some things in order to do the next assignment well. So again, communication is the name of the game. Using the student Blackboard, as I mentioned, I'll be sending out announcements through that. It's a way to connect to other students in the program. You'll be able to look and see on the blog people's bios. So you can see who's all in the program, even though you're not all on campus together. The student Blackboard is our attempt to make kind of a virtual community so that you guys can be in touch with one another. And you'll see people will introduce themselves, hopefully, within your classes as well. And you'll meet people when you're out at Catalina Island Spatial Data Acquisition 587 class. And then lastly, Maureen Scott is your first point of contact for registration, financial aid, all those kinds of things. Maureen will be in touch with you, requesting appointments, you know, in advance of registering each semester, or in touch with you with issues or questions. Please keep your appointments with Maureen carefully. Please respond to her emails quickly, and know that she's there, and reach out to her as needed. So again, communication is the name of the game. This is just a quote from a fall 2016 student to wrap up here. I think time management is really what helped me to be successful in the first semester. That communicating with professors about work trips or issues that I encounter with the ArcMap software, asking questions when I didn't fully understand, and staying on top of everything rather than waiting until the last minute. With working full-time and traveling, I did have a lot of really late nights, but it was worth it. So we know that you guys are going to have to work late nights and probably weekends, especially if you have jobs, or if you're a full-time student, you're taking 2 classes. We know it's going to be a lot to balance. Plan ahead, communicate with us, and we'll get it done. Think about how you can improve your time management skills as the semester continues, and stay organized. Put your syllabus, put the deadlines on your electronic calendar, whatever tricks you can use to keep yourself organized, and keep managing your time carefully. Work ahead where you can. That's my tips and tricks to think about. And so now we have questions. I think I kept it. Did I keep it to 15 minutes?
Yeah, no, you did pretty good for a professor.
It's an occupational hazard. 15 minutes.
Yeah. I didn't see any questions come through on the chat as of yet. If anyone does, you can type them in, or if you wanted to ask yourself, you can unmute yourself and ask really quickly. But the chat is just down there at the bottom. You wanted to type in a question real quick.
It's okay. If you have the question, somebody else probably does too.
Yeah, there really aren't any silly questions, trust us. Or maybe I just answered all of them already. Did you get any? Oh, here we go. So this one says, for the annotated bibliography assignment, where would they find the info for an assignment in Blackboard? They're having trouble finding the assignment info.
Okay. So I'm going to guess this is in SSCI 581, right?
Yes.
That assignment's in there now. So I think there is probably in that Blackboard, though I don't have access to it and I haven't looked at it in some time. I think on the far left, so on Blackboard, on the far left in the left-hand column, we have what I call tabs. These are like the main menu buttons. And there's probably a main menu button there that says assignments on it. And or there might be one that says course notes or weekly assignments. And so the way we design our Blackboards usually is that if you go into that tab, you're going to see each week of the course. And usually the way we design our Blackboards, again, I haven't looked at 581 in a little while, but there'll be a folder for each week. And then inside that folder, you'll find the course notes, the assignment document, and also the submission link to submit your assignment. And those things should all be inside that folder. And the folders usually have a little description written on them to say this is week 1 and these are the materials that are in there. And then the materials themselves hopefully all have little descriptions on them. So maybe give that a whirl right now and see if you can find it. And if you can't find it, then send an email tonight to Professor Bernstein or Professor Sedano, I think is the other one teaching 581 this semester, or whichever your professor is, send them an email and say, look, I want to work on this assignment. I can't find the assignment document. Where should I look for it? or can you send it to me right away?
And then the other question, someone asked about who to speak to if they're thinking of rolling from the certificate to the master's. That would be me. If you were wondering about time frames and that type of thing, ideally the best time to get in touch with me is at the beginning of your last semester of courses. So whichever one you're taking, your last class or your last 2 courses, you can send me an email. If you're sort of thinking about the idea as you're going through the program, but you're unsure and you just kind of want to talk big picture, Bob is a great person to talk to, as well as just developing those relationships with the faculty as you're going through the classes, to speak to about the opportunities that come with the master's degree. But in terms of timeline, you want to apply, just give me a call when you're ready.
That's great. Yeah. So just to be clear, people who are in the certificate program will need to apply to the master's program.
Yes.
And as Virginia's pointing out, the best time probably to file that application is at the start of the semester with your last class in the certificate program. So if you're taking your class, so when you're taking your elective for the certificate, it's probably your 4th class at that point. That's the time to apply. And it's great if you have the ability, if you've forged a relationship with a professor from one of your 4 classes, or one of your 3 classes, I guess to say, to get them to ask them to write a letter for you. Actually, is a great
Yep.
idea. Have a good relationship with one of them.
And then another one, this is interesting, Bob. I don't think we've ever had this question before. So I've started following a lot of GIS academics and thought leaders and professionals on Twitter. What else can I do and who should I follow in terms of staying current with GIS discussions?
So there's there are some blogs. I mean, I would recommend, there's a blog called Spatial Reserves, which is run by Joseph Kursky at Esri. And that has, actually what it's really about is about development of spatial data, and it's tracking different kinds of spatial data that are being developed around the world. And so that's to me, that it's based on he has a book by that name, Spatial Reserves. And so the blog is an outcome, and it's sort of an ongoing electronic update of that book and the publication of that book. So I recommend that. There are some interest groups from AAG. So if you join AAG, you can get onto some interest groups there. There's also Risa, and so I check out their website and see if they have a newsletter, a blog that you can subscribe to. There's a group called University of Consortium for GIS, USC GIS, that has some listservs that circulate. So there are a number of, there's something called GIS Cafe, which is more of it's like a site where people post questions and they get, like, I'm having trouble with this workflow. Does anybody have any suggestions for how to make it work better? And you'll get GIS Lounge or GIS Cafe, and you'll get back, you'll see lots of answers for that. So kind of depending what you're looking for, what kind of community you want to be in, there are slightly different answers, but there's a lot of there's still some blogs and listservs out there, and different opportunities. So if the person asking the question has a specific area they want to be looking in, maybe mention that one, or ask. And if I don't know the answer, then I could suggest who on our faculty might have a good suggestion. So if it's just kind of a general question, then I think probably the answer I just gave has some hints. I hope.
Great.
It's an interesting question. I wasn't anticipating that one at all.
Right?
Yeah.
And one of the acronyms, do you want to spell URISA for everyone?
Oh, yes. Urban Regional Information Science Association, right? Let me, hold on.
I think you got it.
So Risa is this group that is basically, so it's a little bigger than just geospatial professionals, but it has some planners and some regional economists who participate in it as well. But it's largely GIS professionals, and they have for example, they have a magazine and they have a newsletter, and they have chapters in different locations also. So there are sort of regional conferences, chapters. So definitely check them out.
Right, and one of the students, Charlotte, just sent in the chat that she's found a lot of Esri groups on Instagram as well. So if you're on Instagram, to check out different Esri groups that are on there.
Excellent. Thank you. That's a great point. There's within California, there's a group called Cal GIS that has conferences. That's another one. So there are a variety of conferences and groups that network, GIS professionals. So some of it too would be a little research for the area of the country you're in. So Risa might be a gateway into that, right?
Definitely. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I mean, obviously you can always contact myself. All of you have my contact info. If you do have any other questions that come up, Maureen, Ken, and Bob's contact is all listed on this page as well. So feel free to, if something pops up as soon as this ends, feel free to get in touch with us. We are here to help. But welcome everyone to the program, and if you're continuing on, we're very glad to have you with us still, and yeah, fight on.
Yep. Great to see you guys. Welcome and good luck to everybody.
Take care.